you into the weekend. And I'm going to bring on now a very, very good friend of mine, Hank Settala. Here he comes. Hey, Hank.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Hi, Hank. Thanks for having. Welcome. It's great to have you here.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. I know. So Hank and I have known each other for a long time. We're both graduates of Fellowships of the Spirit School of Healing and Prophecy, which we both love. And we connected a lot. We always said that we would connect and we would do some things together. But I live in Buffalo and he lives in Ohio. So we weren't always able to do that. But we were last March, right, Hank?
Yep, we did. And it's probably overdue for us to create a little something together again.
I would say so. I think so too. We have a lot of fun when we work together. So Hank, tell everybody about you, okay, and about Emergence of Being, because I love that name. That's the name of Hank's website and his company, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about him.
I'll do that. And first, you had asked me to do the set-aside prayer, and I think that is the perfect way to start. So this is something that I learned in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, slightly adapted for a more broad scope, I would say. But just asking the universe or God or source, whatever your word is, we say source, God, thank you so much for the air in our lungs, the food in our stomachs, the clothing on our backs, and the shelter overhead. And thank you so much for giving us the means to come together and meet in this way. Help us set aside everything we think we know about politics, about religion, about spirituality, about healing, about inner work, about everything, especially you, God, that we may have an open mind and experience the truth. Amen. So my name's Hank Settala. I'm the Sonic Shaman, and my center is called Emergence of Being. And that was inspired because I truly feel that humanity as a whole, we're shifting from being human doings into stepping into our own unique voice, our true authenticity, stepping into being in the world instead of doing in the world. And so I offer classes, services, all kinds of different things to help people along that path, to help them to step into their beingness without judging themselves for it or without getting caught up on other people's judgments about them being themselves.
Yeah, love that, Hank. I think that's so important. I think it's important always, but I feel like it's so important now, especially like with this past year. And you and I have talked about that a lot, you know, and how important it is to connect to your authenticity and just be you, right?
Absolutely. And it's also a matter of recognizing that we can't not be. You're always being in the world. And something that's been on my mind a lot lately is the difference in energy between being and becoming. Because you're always being. The question is, what energy do I choose to become? Do you choose to become that energy and beingness of joy? And the becoming is the process of shifting from one state of being to another. And that's the energy that we're in the world, is we're shifting from the point A to point B, and we're in the process of really flowering our divine potential in this world. It's going to be such an amazing journey with everyone.
I think so too. And I think like as we're coming into 2021, I've been talking to a lot of people that feel that same way, right? That it's almost like we were forced to slow down for a reason, right? As we go into this next year.
Absolutely. And that was the acronym I shared with us on the fireside chat, and Angie had asked me to talk about lenses and things like that, which I spoke about on the Fellowships of the Spirit fireside chat on Super Bowl Sunday. I was the lucky winner to talk on Super Bowl Sunday. But it was like really a great opportunity to really look at lenses and things of really get to the core of what's holding us back to making this transition, is the judgments, the points of view, and not holding the benefit of the doubt for other people. When we start looking at, wow, this person was just such a jerk to me, through their lenses, they were being absolutely 100% where they need to be in the world, and recognizing that, well, what lenses are they looking through? Did they have abuse as a child? Do they have certain religious components? And all that was inspired by my friend, I won't mention his name, but we had a very good friend of mine. We went down this rabbit hole of polarity, and he was like the warrior and fighting and all that. And that's the lenses that he looks through, because he was in the Marine Corps, and everything he looks at is, it's a battle. You got to fight. You got to fight. And he sent me this meme of Osho, and the meme said, "You may be the last generation which has the possibility to rebel. And if you don't rebel, there may be no more chances. Humanity can be reduced to a robot-like existence. So rebel while there's still time." And I happen to have researched a lot about Osho and studied a lot about Osho. And Osho has this unique word for rebel, and I won't go into all of it, but just to show you, like, look at the lenses. He finds something from Osho that fits his paradigm, that fits his lenses, that says, hey, this Indian nature mystic is giving me the green light to go and be the warrior, right? Yeah. However, Osho also says, let me get to the right quote. Osho is an Indian nature mystic that has hundreds and hundreds of books on virtually every topic. And that's why my friend, I think you know Param. Do you know Param? The guy in my area that does the Wildlife Sucks seminars. He's a professor at Baldwin Wallace, and he's traveled the world doing talks at corporations as a motivational speaker and also a TED Talk, all on the works of Osho.
Okay, awesome. Okay, good.
But he says that the word rebel is, let's see, I want to make sure I get the quote right, and then it's going to open the door for all of our conversation around lenses. It's an old association and a misunderstanding that to be a nonconformist is to be a rebel. The nonconformist is a reactionary. He acts out of anger, rage, violence, and ego. His action is not based in consciousness. Is based in reaction, based in duality. Although he goes against a society, just to be against a society is not necessarily to be right. In fact, most of the time, to move from one extreme to another is from moving from one wrong to another. The rebel acts with tremendous balance that is not possible without awareness, alertness, and immense compassion. It is not reaction, it is action, not against the old, but for the new. And all the lenses that we use put us in the state of reacting to people and reacting to things, where if we show up and we're conscious, we're starting to choose action instead. And that's really the big thing, is we're moving from this place where we're reacting through life unconsciously to now start acting consciously and actually choosing things instead of just kind of going in the unconscious flow.
Yeah, and that's I love that. And that's what you were talking about a lot in the fireside chat. And that's Fellowships of the Spirit has a fireside chat every Sunday, and Hank was the speaker. And I loved what he said, and it inspired me when I listened to it, and it inspired me again. I listened to it again this morning. But you were talking about the filters too, right? And perception, that it all depends on how we look at things, right?
Right. And in my friend's case, he was an ex-Marine. He's looking through the lenses that he was taught in the Marine Corps. It's kill or be killed. You got to win. And even if you look at the United States, we're in like a winner-take-all mindset. So those are the filters that are being put on. Like, it's winner-take-all. There is no middle ground. It's Democrat or Republican. And like, there's other parties too, but you get the idea, this polarization, that it's always fighting. It's always through these lenses. Winner takes all. If I can't have it all, I don't want it at all. And to recognize these lenses and that the other person is looking at them through that. And then once you realize that, instead of judging them for making, being how they are with those lenses, you can instead hold the space where you can be an allowance of where they're at. You don't align and agree with it. You don't resist and react to it. And when you do that, the rules of duality, that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, that rule no longer applies, because you're not fighting anymore. And they fall into the space you're holding, which gives them the opportunity to choose differently. So it's a real dance, really, because we easily get caught up in judgment. We easily get caught up in having a point of view about their point of view. But if you could have interesting point of view, that holds the space for something different instead of fighting in and feeding the problem.
Sure does. You know what it reminds me of? 100th Monkey. I'm taking that right now. That's a course with Mark Thomas through Fellowships, and it's based on the Bhagavad Gita studies and Yoga Sutras. And it's that same thing, that if you change yourself and you meditate and get to that space, and you talked a lot in that chat about connecting to that. I think the higher power, you called it infinite. What did you call it? Infinite soul?
I like saying, you could have, depends which frame you want to look at it through. An Alice Bailey work, a Sacred Doctrine, will be the monad. That's like the higher self. That's the definition. But your higher self, absolute consciousness, source consciousness, whatever you want to call it. Everybody might label it a little differently. And it's beyond words. So we're never going to agree, because it's so big that one word will never encapsulate the totality of what it is. So we just have to be an allowance of other people's awarenesses around the same thing. That's why we have so many religions and so many different modalities. That's why we have 400 different types of Reiki, because we receive the same information through our filters and then create our own version on it. And then we decide that we have to compare and make other people right or wrong for not agreeing or disagreeing or aligning with us.
Yeah, that's for sure. Talk some more about the filters. I loved what you said about that, because we have our filters, other people have theirs, and the point that and it sounded like what you were saying is we have to be aware of ours, right, so that we don't get in a judgment place and we get to more of an acceptance. of others.
Yeah, and it's really difficult because the filters that we're wearing, sometimes we've been wearing them so long that we don't recognize them as filters. So,
Yeah.
for example, an old filter that might be implanted from being a child is you have to work hard to get ahead, or you have to work hard to earn money, or money is evil, and if you have money it will corrupt and you won't be happy. So we have these fundamental beliefs that even though consciously we might choose to create something different in our life, that filter, oh man, if I have money I'm going to turn into a jerk. I don't know if I can swear on Blog Talk Radio, so we'll say jerk. And so, like, even though you're consciously looking to create abundance for yourself, your core belief is, if I have money, I'll be a jerk. Therefore, my other than conscious is going to out manifest my consciousness and create poverty and
Right.
not create abundance, because we're creating 100% of the time with the totality of us. How much are you creating consciously and how much is unconsciously? And it's the unconscious stuff that, as you sort through and you bring those things to light and not get rid of, but transmute the shadow that would be holding you back and creating these limitations, that you start to exponentially accelerate with your growth, wisdom, and the totality of your being.
For sure. And you're right. It's kind of becoming aware of those, because otherwise there you are, like you talked about that with poverty or having enough money is, you're working hard and you're wondering why it's not working. And it has to do with those filters.
Absolutely. And the part one is just to really notice, like, when you start to react to anything, to take a step back and realize that the only place you can react from is from a place of unconsciousness. It's from a place of falling into one of those shadow responses, if you want to call it that, or you're falling into acting out of a lens. And once you notice that, you can ask, well, what's this about? Don't ask why. Why is a looping question. Why universe means give me another experience of the same, and you get the why. So instead, what could I be and do to create a different possibility around this? Where is the original wound? I love that question. Or in NLP, you would say, when have I felt like this before? Or if we have chronic killers out there, the Prometheus process, all the times that I felt like, and all of it is designed to drill down and find that original wound, which might be when your parents were having a fight while they were changing your diaper about how expensive this kid is. We didn't know how expensive it would be. We never wanted this child. And then, like, of course, they changed their mind and that's the best thing that ever happened to them. But what things are imprinted on us that creates these lenses of I'm not worthy? And it might not be anything that you can pinpoint from a memory. It might just be an energy that you have to become aware of, and then have the willingness to say that no longer serves who I'm choosing to be. And willing to shift.
Yeah, and it's that simple too, because you find it and you say that. Like I'll say sometimes that was then and this is now, and I don't need that anymore, right?
Yeah, well, you don't need the trauma and drama, I would say, because, like, if you think of like a diamond being formed from charcoal, like, you have the trauma and the drama that makes this pearl of wisdom or this diamond in the rough. But what you can get rid of is the pressure that was used to create it, because all those experiences are tools for us to share with other people and help them on their path. So we don't get rid of the memory, but we get rid of the charge, and we get rid of that trauma and drama, can really step into just ease and possibility then.
For sure. And that's the thing too, is that, like, we can't change other people, but we can change our energy. And that's kind of what you were talking about with that too, with changing your perception with the filters, right?
Yep. Change your point of view, your whole reality changes. And it's important too, are you looking through shaded glasses, or are you seeing the situation for just the situation, unlabeled by anything, and can come to your own knowing, your own awareness, and your own choice without buying into any other people's points of view around it.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, Hank, tell them about how you had the one-day live virtual event for peace.
That was really fun. So I had just saw news articles and things talking about all the anticipated chaos that was expected on January 16th. And I had this thought, hey, what if I just set up a live stream and I showed my mesa at the center and people could tune in and just meditate with the mesa? And then that led to the thought, well, what if I just I had to have that at my center, and then I would come home and just pop on every hour and have a talk, which turned into, what if I just had a whole day of presentations? And so in 2 days, I filled enough guests and pre-recordings for 12 hours worth of live streaming. Angie is one of the guests on it. And on January 16th, my target was, what if I were to create something that people could focused our attention on instead of the news and the chaos. And it turned into this 12-hour live stream. Mark Thomas was on it, Tom Kratzley, Elaine Thomas, all from fellowships. I had Param on there, who was the gentleman I talked to with the TED Talks, all kinds of different presenters, all with the goal of giving people takeaways, tools to shift into their beingness, to emerge into their being.
Yeah. And that, I love that. I love the emergence into your being, but I mean, that's so important too. 'Cause that's what we can do. Like sometimes I think we don't know what to do, right? When there's things happening in the world or we don't agree with things and it's shifting the way your perception and the way that you're looking at it, like you said, but also do things for peace because you did that and you reached a huge audience that thought about that and then thought about peace and carried that forward, I feel.
Definitely. And it was a lot of fun, and it created energy flows where your attention goes. And our attention was all focused on peace and possibility. And I truly feel that it created huge shifts, and people are still finding that. It's on my The Emergence of Being YouTube channel. If people want to go check it out, you can watch it. Or it's also on my podcast. If you go to the Sonic Shaman on like iTunes and stuff like that, the entire thing is there, just audio if you prefer to listen to things. But all that is there as a resource, and people constantly find it. And I got someone messaging me the other day, hey, I just listened to it. Can I have a discovery call and connect with you, because they wanted to see what services we might be able to help them along with their journey. So it's still creating change. Yeah. And that's such a great thing. I love this age of technology where what we're doing right now is going to live in the ethers for people to continue to find and get benefit from. It's such an amazing thing.
It's an amazing thing. And actually, when you were talking about that was kind of funny, because I remember it wasn't funny, but back in March, we started talking, and that's what happened with that is we'd come up with one idea that would grow into something else and something else and something else. And that was the whole thing was to connect us,
Yeah, and that, in fact, you were the reason that inspired Emergence of Being, because we were going to do a virtual fair, and we had started planning for that. And I'm like, well, what's this fair going to be called? And I bought the domain name Emergence of Being with the intention of it being that name of the holistic fair. And then when my partnership dissolved, it used to be Holistic Health and Healing LLC was the partnership for the center, and we all parted our ways. And it was just like, well, this is Emergence of Being. This was Holistic Health and Healing had its role. It connected these bridges between the metaphysical and the physical, the scientific world. And now we're done with that and we're ready to emerge. And it was just like a natural flow of events. And I already had the domain name. I just had to build the site, and it became the new center.
I forgot about that, because I remember that was you, and Karen Sully. Karen's on there. I don't know if she wants to come on screen or not. You want to come on screen, Karen? Okay. That's the first. Okay.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
It's the magician behind the curtain. The wizard behind the curtain has been unveiled.
That's the wizard behind the curtain. There she is. That's Karen Sully, everybody. And Karen is our friend, tech person. Karen makes everything happen. The wizard behind the curtain. But remember those days, Karen? We did all that brainstorming till 1, 2 in the morning, I think sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. We make a good team. I know Hank helped us with our technology. We wouldn't be where we are without you, Hank.
Oh my God, Hank. Yeah. This StreamYard that we're all on here, StreamYard, like that all came from Hank.
Yeah, well, it's not like I created the program, but I found it, and it is such an amazing platform to do these things on, because you can go out to all the different areas and then upload it afterwards to podcasts, and we're on Blog Talk Radio at the same time, which I don't even know how to do. I tried to figure it out the other day. So you guys found a niche where I didn't know how to do that. So it's really amazing that you've been able to do that. And technology is just holding the space that this is philosophy, or this prophecy, I should say, in the South American tradition of shamanism, the Pakokuna tradition. And they call it, there's this Pachacuti, which means world turned upside down. And that would bring forth the rainbow triad of man, meaning that all these different pockets of people from India, where they had their traditions, in South America and the North, that we're all now bringing the gifts that we have kind of perfected. Perfect is not the right word, but every area and location had their own knowledge and wisdom. There was meditation, there was intention, there was prayer. And now that they're all coming together and starting to merge and starting to share our knowledges, so that we can become this rainbow tribe really coming together. And the prophecy of the condor and the eagle flying together in peace, 2 birds of war flying together in peace, the children of the North and the South coming together, is all Peruvian philosophy. But I truly feel we're in that. You see, with the age of technology, we're all able to come together, share things that we would never have been able to do even a decade ago. I know. At least not with the level of ease that we have. And this is just really the beginning of our solution, our soul evolution into the space.
Hey, Hank, I want to bring something up here. This is Penny, and Penny said, "Good morning. This is so amazing. I've been going through this a lot lately. I call awakenings. While I meditate, I ask what makes me react like this, and I've been able to answer myself and try to move forward." That's excellent.
Yeah, and a great tool for any moving forward through anything like that. It's always well, not always. There's always exceptions to every rule, except for there's always exceptions to every rule, right? So the idea is you find one energy that you want to shift. So what energy, space, consciousness, and choice could your body, being, and beyond be to effortlessly shift all of your heaviness, all of your shadow with total ease? So asking a question like that is going to bring up all the things that would hold you back. And then the second question is every place where I'm not willing to be that energy. And that brings up a second energy. And using whatever tools you want to deal with that, that's the things that you deal with. That's like I have a live stream on my channel called Leap. And I originally thought I was going to talk about how we all have these gifts from spirit and you have to take a leap to soar. And while I was doing the live stream, I realized, like, well, people that have their gifts, like famous singers, I don't want to mention any names, but there's a lot of singers and people in show business that they are very gifted and they take their leap and they end up crashing and burning with alcohol, drugs, and chaos and all kinds of things. And the thought occurred to me, what if it's like a hot air balloon?
Yeah.
What if we're using all this inspiration and things, creating this lift to bring us, into the upper world, and the heaviness, the shadow, it's like the sandbags that are holding and tethering the balloon down. And rather than just moving the hucha, we call it in shamanism, from point A to point B, what if you were able to take that sand and it's actually fuel that you could use for that fire to lift you higher, and really starting to soar with your gifts through this process of love, actually enlightenment. You're enlightening yourself so you can raise up. Yeah. And you're not shutting the door on any of the past. You're using it as fuel for possibility.
Yes, I love that too. And you're right. Take a look at the past and use it for fuel for possibility. And what you're saying with that too, that reminds me, that's one of the 100th monkey things is, when have I felt this way before, and kind of going back to it. And then what's the emotion under it, and the emotion under it, and you let it go. And that does give you fuel, because it helps you understand that all those things in the past make you what you are now.
And I'm a word nerd, so you guys know. And with words, the energy underneath the words is what the universe listens to. And when we use words consciously, it can be different from what the collective conscious. The word understanding is what brings us up. If you say to the universe, I wish I could understand my parents and why they're hoarders and why they're whatever the case is, energetically, what you're saying to the universe is, put me in that circumstance so I get it. Mm-hmm. And you can actually, other than consciously, create the same scenarios for the person that you want to understand, and then also like, oh, I get why they chose that. So instead, I invite everyone to substitute understanding with awareness, because awareness would just be an awareness of what is, without having the actual true understanding of it, for being in the same position. So just throwing it out. Like I said, I'm a word nerd when it comes to like the energy behind words and creation.
Yeah. And Hank, I was listening to one of your podcasts with Dr. K, and you talked about grace and ease, and she was like manifesting something or whatever. And then you always add grace and ease onto what you're asking for of the awareness. Is that?
Oh, I say with total ease, because that's like a condition of the universe. Yeah. So a couple things grace is a Tom Cressley thing, which renders all mistakes temporary, I think is the way Tom says it. So I do love the energy behind grace and what Tom brings to the table. But when you're looking to create with the universe, it's like, what would it take for me to have all the abundance I would ever need with total ease? Like when you say total ease, in my mind, it's like if you look at the genie and you say, I wish for 1 million pounds of gold or something, and the evil genie creates it above your head and it collapses on you, right? So like the universe only knows yes. And so I like to let the universe do its job, and I don't put many stipulations on it. It's like, I'm focused on actualizing, which is that something shows up, and not manifesting, which is how something shows up. I need a car versus I need a red car that's a Chevy or whatever. So actualization is that. However, you can state preferences. So it's like with total ease gives the universe, well, don't just like slap me with it, bring it to me with ease. And so that's the only condition that I put on the universe, because the raw, undomesticated power of the universe, we would call that the Wilkasami in shamanism. It's just the raw, unmanifested light. It has no points of view. It does not care how it's used. It only wants to be used. So when you're working with like truly tapping into that, it's very good to say with ease. because you don't want it to manifest in a way that would be traumatic. Because sometimes people that are really tapped into that, they're really good at creating, but their life is very chaotic because when they create, it comes in a way that just isn't necessarily ideal for their progress, but they got what they asked for. And so that's the difference. And there's some people that are very gifted at that. There's some people that are very, let me give the example. Say you're the conductor of the orchestra, and the universe is all the different instruments, right? If you just use all the instruments at once, it's a random chaotic thing that doesn't have any form or structure. It's just all these different notes playing. But if you use the form and structure, then you can have like the soul of the music, and it can show up in the way that that's the preference. You're saying, bring it to me with ease, bring me that song with the ease to the ear and all that. But you could also get too caught up in technicalities. Like if you look at law of attraction, all these little tools, and you're so focused, you're almost focusing so much on the intention that in a way it's saying that you don't have it. And then that's like all the form and structure, but you're missing tapping into the potency. So it's really being in this middle place, being able to wield all of the cosmic power of the universe, to use like the think of the genie from Aladdin, unlimited cosmic power, itty bitty living space, right? But you're tapping into all that, being able to put it into the container of duality, manifesting divinity on the physical world, and in this balanced state where you're doing it in a way that is very artistic.
Yeah, for sure. When you talk about that things being hard, I remember like hearing, like when I was a kid, you have to work hard. You're never going to get anywhere unless you work really hard. And I think you have to be committed for sure, right? And set your intention, but you don't have to work hard. It can be ease, right?
It can come totally with ease, but point of view creates reality. And that's what one of those things that I would say is like a core belief, or in theta healing, they call it the core belief. It would be an original wound. In shamanism, it would be an NLP, like one of the bottom layer. I forget what they call it in NLP. It's all the same thing with different terms. If that was told you as a kid, and that is what you ultimately believe, and you don't want to work hard, you might prefer not to be abundant because you don't have to work hard. And so that's all points of view that it's, once you identify it, you can shift. Well, you know what? Things can come with ease.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they come with ease. It doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to go bankrupt 7 times like a lot of these successful millionaires do. You don't have to have the success story like Steve Harvey, who was literally homeless, and then he got the call and got the money, and then he became famous. You don't necessarily have to have a low.
Yeah.
It's all about being centered, because Mark Thomas, in the talk that he did on the 12-hour stream with me, he gave the example of or was it Prom that did it? No, I don't know. It was either Prom or Mark. But how, like a wheel spinning, you have the peaks and you have the valleys. You have the peaks and the valleys. But if you're centered, you're always in that space. The peaks can become valleys, the valleys can become peaks, because you're not polarized one way or the other way. You're experiencing that polarity. And that's what it's about, is getting rid of the things that would stop you from moving into possibility, so you can be in the center. And let me give you this affirmation. This is the
ask you for that, because something good, because you're right, we can stay this way and stay balanced and not be up, down, up, down, up, down, right?
Right. And in that space, truly everything is just an interesting point of view, because we are in a duality. In the duality, there's right and wrong, but in the one-ality, there's not. And both truths are true at once. The greatest truths are paradoxes. They appear in opposition because one's a duality truth and one is a one-ality truth. But there's this credo from Rishi's Metaphysical Institute, which I attended for quite some time. And they start every class, every meditation with, "It is my desire to sit calmly upon the throne and the temple of my own body, between the 2 great pillars of positive and negative vibration, balancing them to the point where I can radiate through my temple of light to all whom I contact the wonderful peace, poise, power, wisdom, love, and harmony of God."
Wow.
And that is the essence of being able to be in that middle space with access to all the potentiality of the universe, but with the skill sets to bring it into actualization in a way that's preferred.
Yeah. I love it. I love that. Say it again, Hank. Say that one more time.
What part? The affirmation? So the other part I can't say again because it's gone already. But the affirmation was, "It is my desire to sit calmly upon the throne in the temple of my own body, between the 2 great pillars of positive and negative vibration, balancing them to the point where I can radiate through my temple of light to all whom I contact the wonderful peace, poise, power, wisdom, love, and harmony of God." And recognize that all of that is a natural process of tuning in within. I like that, tuning in within. We have in the Paco tradition, we call the seed of energy your muhu koi. It's your seed of divine potential. Think of it like where they say we're all one, there's that divine spark within everyone. That's the place we're all one. And as it comes through our body and our being and everything that we are, it comes through all these filters of our past experiences, past lives, other dimension things, like the totality of who we are. It's coming through the filter of all those experiences that we are as this evolving mind or being or whatever, however you want to look at it. And it's like a prism. This raw unmanifested light comes into this prism and this rainbow energy comes out. And that's where the 7 rays in metaphysics comes from. Think about the chakras. This is all a extrapolation of raw energy coming in, being separated. And as we balance and bring it into that center space, you're able to take that same unmanifested light and manifest that in the physical plane without that skewing and separation of filtered energy.
Love that. Love that. I love that. And we really are all one when we connect in that space. And when we connect in that space too, I always think it like we have to respect what each person is going through and what each person came here to learn. And I always think this too, it would be so boring if we were all the same. Like, isn't it so much better that we're all different doing different things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very good. And we all have our different skill sets and our different gifts that we can bring to the table, or our different abilities, because there's no entitlement. Everybody has abilities and all those abilities are equally valued. We just sometimes don't have the point of view they are because the circumstances that come up for that gift or that ability to really shine. But when we really come together and we can focus on what our attributes are that are beneficial and really saying how can we start to work together to create greater possibilities for ourselves in the world, that's when like the magic for humanity will happen, because we're not going to be comparing anymore. We're going to actually be collaborating.
Yes.
We won't be competing, we'll be cooperating. And that is where all the magic's going to really unfold in terms of the species moving forward.
So much, so much. I love talking to people. Like no matter where I go to the grocery store and get in a conversation. And you're right. Everybody has their gifts and everybody has their points of view. And there's so much we can learn from each other.
Yeah. And, going back to your thing, you got to work hard to get ahead. Well, that's just your hobby. You got to go get a real job. And we're taught that you can't make money or be successful or have abundance with the things that they don't bring you joy. You are already joyful. One of the ways you express your joy is through music. One of the ways you express your joy is through mediumship, because it's being first, doing second. What energy could you be to be the grandest vision you ever held about yourself? And allow that to come up and ask the question then, what's stopping me? Allow that to come up and work with that. The access tool would be to do a clearing statement. So let's do it for real. What energy, space, consciousness, and choice can my body, being, and beyond be to enter into my true potential and possibility as an infinite being with total ease? And allowing that energy to come up in all aspects of your being, both known and unknown. And then asking the question, and everywhere in my existence, both known and unknown, that would stop me from choosing that would stop me from being that would stop me from becoming that. All that is, we're all willing to destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. So that's just a little access clearing, identifying the one, identifying the other, and using that clearing tool to take down that pillar that's holding us back, or that pile of rubble. The boulders.
And it's that easy. It's that easy, right? To get rid of that pile of rubble.
Point of view creates reality. If you think you have to work hard to heal, you'll have to work hard, but it can be easy.
Yeah.
People give so much weight to their story. Like, I spent 20 years getting screwed up. I almost said a bad word. Like, we spent 20 years getting screwed up. How could I go to a healer and in one day with a simple handshake be healed? Because we put so much weight on the story. However, if you're willing to receive the healing, I say all the time, people bring their own healings with them. Mm-hmm. What are they willing to receive? And as a healer, as a medium, as whatever, however you're facilitating with people, what space can I hold for them to step into a different possibility and for them to receive their own healing? And the Karo tradition, we call it ompwe, 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 come heal what the soul's already healed. Recognizing that at some point in this ever-present moment of now, you're not wounded. And what would it take for you to get imprinted with that, so that everything that is out of resonance with your perfected self gets illuminated and you can deal with it with ease?
Yeah. Which, and it's, I'm taking the 100th Monkey course right now. And Mark says, do exactly like with what you're saying, and then meditate, and if you meditate, you connect like to that higher power of yourself. And it's not so hard. Then a lot of it gets worked out in the meditation, right?
Yeah. Meditation, all of life eventually becomes a meditation, but it's really important, I feel, to whatever it is, whether it's riding your mountain bike or driving your car or something that can get you into that place of quiet, And then the question is, what would it take for me to have that all the time? Because I don't meditate every day anymore. I meditate when certain occasions, but all of life really becomes a meditation where you're always in that space. Mark gives that example of the movie screen. That's what did this for me. For anybody looking to get to that space, Mark would give this analogy that when you would go to the movies and all the advertisements were playing and all that, the screen is white. That's the silence. The silence is ever present. And the more often you meditate or can get to that space of silence, all of a sudden, no matter what movie is playing, no matter what the trauma and drama is, you can tap in with that silence behind it. Yeah. And everything can become that tranquil place. And it's really fun.
Yeah. And
that's it.
Hey, I remember that this just a quick story that I can remember, like when I first started doing readings, and that was, I wanted to do them, but there was fear there too. And I would let myself, like somebody would say, you did a good reading. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for more, and then somebody else would say, well, that wasn't exactly correct. It was a so reading. And then I'd be down on the ground thinking, I'm quitting. I'm never doing this again. I was going pretty crazy with that up and down. And then finally I got to that space that you're talking about. And I did it with meditation and affirmation that I'm just going to be here because I know this is what I'm meant to be doing or what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm going to, not go with the ups and downs, just kind of stay centered and even, right?
And trust, even if you give a reading 100% wrong, that they got exactly what they need. And I think I've used this example on a previous show that when I was on with you, that I had at Church of the Angels, which is a spiritualist church on the far eastern part of Cleveland in Ohio. I was there doing gallery readings, or the message portion of the service. And Spirit told me when I got up, you're going to give this message and it's going to be 100% wrong. And I'm just like, what is going on? And so I got up and I'm giving this message at Church of the Angels, and the person's like, nope, they couldn't take it. So I moved on and did 2 more, and that was fine. Afterwards, they came up to me and they said, and they, at the time I was still a student, but they really looked at me as a professional, and they had been wanting to do it, but they didn't have the confidence. And they came up afterwards and they said, even someone like you messes up, maybe I can do this. And so they got exactly what they needed. But thank goodness Spirit told me beforehand, because I would have been like traumatized or something, like I'm never doing this again, because I was really early in my work. Yeah. And from my point of view, apparently not from theirs, but that is to trust that even if it's misinformation, something like that, they might be talking to their friend a week from now, and what's going on with them is totally relevant to the message you gave them, and all of a sudden it makes sense why they got it. So you never know. But people get exactly what is needed at the time.
You know what, Hank? It's all about healing anyway, right? So
it is.
You never know, like, what the healing is, and you doing that message the way they told you to give that message was the healing for the person, because that gave them the courage to do what they need to do. Right?
Yep. And the huge takeaway from this that is easy to see now but wasn't then is don't have a point of view about other people's point of view about you. It's none of your business what other people think.
Don't what?
I said it's none of your business what other people think.
Okay. No, you said don't have a point of view about a point of view.
I said, don't have a point of view about other people's point of view, meaning like judging their judgment about you.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing, but there's been a couple experiences specifically that were like so like traumatic and drama at the time that really showed me that, it doesn't matter what that person thinks. And really entering into that space where you stop giving relevance to what other people think too, because it's not relevant. That's their point of view. The only one that's stuck with it is them, unless you take it as truth for you.
Yeah.
And that is like a key thing, because once you get out of the polarity and the duality of caring what other people's judgments is about you, good, bad, or neutral, because a good judgment will stick you worse than a bad one. If I say, Andrew, you're the greatest medium, and what if you were to align and agree with that? Now you stop taking classes and you stop working on getting better because I'm already the greatest medium. So like a good point of view could actually skew you also. So it's no matter whether they say you're great or not great, interesting point of view that you have that point of view, and don't buy into it one way or the other. And that's the space where you really have this unlimited potential and possibility.
Yeah, that's what I found to be able to do my work, is I had to stay neutral. So Hank, give a couple quick tips, okay? Because we're getting to the end, is to stay neutral. How do people do that? How can they stay in that space?
Well, for one, anybody who likes, I create content around that all the time. My YouTube channel is the Sonic Shaman, and you can check out a lot of my past coffee connects and things like that will go deeper into things too. But the number one tool that we already just talked about is interesting point of view. That is a tool that takes to charge off of everything. And when you have a judgment about yourself, interesting point of view that I have that point of view, like recognizing that you're judging yourself. And that is like a huge tool to enter that space, but recognize that it's just a practice. You keep doing it, you notice more. And over time, you're just going to be in that space. You won't have to use a tool. So you just
tell yourself interesting point of view after you say something or hear something?
Yeah, well, energetically, but at first out loud, absolutely. But after you do it enough, it's just like the sutras and transcendental meditation. You start by thinking of the word and dropping it into the other than conscious. And then over time, you just get the energy of the word. Like you're not thinking of the word, but you just have the energy of the word because you're familiar with what that energy is now. So it's just like interesting point of view, but you do that enough and you won't need to use the tool because you'll just be in the space of interesting point of view. But then also recognize that it's not a tool to give an FU to someone. And that was something that came up in Access. Like people will go, interesting point of view that you have that point of view. It's like, well, that's not the energy behind it because that's like being judgmental of them having the point of view, using the words without the energy behind the words of what their purpose is.
Well, you can even say, I remember like Mark or Elaine or somebody saying that like, isn't that interesting? There's that again. There's that again. You know, and saying that right away, and that puts you in a different space than reacting or reaction.
Right. Because you could look at that same judgment and go, oh man, I did that again. And now you're feeding into that polarity instead of going, that's interesting. And then you could follow it up with the question, when have I felt like that before? All the times that I felt betrayed, all the times that I've been dishonest. And you can start drilling down to the ultimate goal of where's the original wound?
Yes.
And once you find that original wound, what energy could I be? What actions could I take to transmute that energy into positive expression to be the fuel of possibility?
Yeah.
And then everything changes. But the number one thing is to notice, start using the tool that feels light for you, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And also use your guides. I mean, we oftentimes feel we have to do it all on ourselves, but in like spiritualism, you have your spirit band. It's like 7 spirit guides. In the shaman tradition, there's a Yanapek with 7 spirit beings. So like what beings of light, what angels, guides, teachers, what other aspects of divinity could be a contribution to me transforming my original wounds. And then you're open to receiving from the totality of the universe because it's not just you. And if you can really be willing to receive from everything, you can begin to change anything.
For sure. I love that, Hank. Karen, it kind of sounds like we need to have Hank come on and do a workshop or something on this.
Yeah, definitely.
Hank, yeah.
So you definitely do that. Could probably have a whole bunch of workshops. They're all like surface level things that you really could go deep with any of them.
I think all 3 of us need to get brainstorming again.
Yeah, maybe we should have a weekly create call and just like, what could we create today and change the world with?
I know. Yeah. I love that. I love that. So thank you so much, Hank, for coming on. So Hank is the sonic shaman, emergence of being. He's located in Ohio. You can find him where can they find you? Online?
Yeah, well, my main site is hanksutala.com. It's just my name.com. I learned that the hard way. Every time I learned something new, I would rebrand myself. And then Spirit's like, hey, you're always you. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. so that's just hanksutala.com. But you do have emergenceofbeing.com is the name of the center. And then you'll find other contributors there because there's like Casey McBride. There's Dr. K, who I do the show on Fridays with, Holistic Health and Healing. She's a medical doctor meet shaman. So we have all kinds of wonderful conversations. But either site you can find me on.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I love getting to talk to you and sharing with you and listening. Seconds. Oh, there we go. And,
wow.
and thank you to Karen too for coming on because we'd be nothing without you, Karen.
Oh, stop.
And thank you to everybody too for coming on. I appreciate it so much. Next week, Linda Elson's going to be back because it's the end. I think it's the final day of Chinese New Year, which is a 15-day celebration. So we're going to talk about some things there. So that's going to be exciting. We'd love, again, I'm Angie Apt. I'm a registered Lily Dale medium, and I appreciate that you came on to Spiritual Discoveries, Discussions with Angie and Friends, and we'll be back next Friday at noon, every Friday at noon. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. Bye.